Hello and welcome to another video. In today's game, it'll be myself, Renegade Moose, playing as the Tomb Kings against Philo helming the Ogre Kingdoms. So the Tomb Kings, if you've seen The Mummy Returns with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, the classic, 90s movie, you kind of get what the Tomb Kings are. They're the mummies. And today, leading them will be Settra the Imperishable. Usually he's on a big sphinx or a chariot, but today he will be on a horse. The reason for that is he gets a nice anti-large bonus. He's a smaller target when he's on a horse, and the Ogre Kingdoms like to have a lot of very scary shooting in the form of lead belchers. And with him will be two tomb princes, his sons, maybe his nephews. I don't think Settra is the type of king who had time for children, or at least not parenting. But the kind of nice synergy with this little goon squad is Settra has two abilities: Unyielding Will, giving melee defense and melee attack, and the Crown of Nekakara, giving general damage buffs. And these are 55-meter radiuses, which is large for an aura, so I think it's just very fun. He's just so impressive that he's buffing up his children, chasing him along. So a nice little anti-large gooning squad. The buffs on these two Tomb Princes make them pretty scary with their stats, so they can really go into any Ogre unit and kind of beat them up and take them out. For the Ogre Kingdoms, we're going to have what looks to be an Ogre Paymaster. I don't really know much about these guys. They are from the most recent Ogre DLC. They look very cool. Is that a goblin in a trunk? On top of a trunk. Love that. So this guy, this Shrek, has Cash Cascade, a nice little aura buff he can pop for the boys when charging in. And besides that, he's just a cheap, effective combat character. I imagine he is very cheap, and that looks to be the emphasis of this build from my opponent, is a very wide, very cheap army. This is a tougher matchup for the Ogres. Tomb Kings do very, very well into unarmored units, and Ogres can't bring a lot of armored units. Their infantry, the little Noplar goblins, can't have armor, and most Ogre Bulls won't have them either. So let's get going into the action here. I have a Bone Giant, kind of being the range shooting core of my army. I really like these guys in this matchup. They do a ton of damage. Their shots kind of penetrate through different units, and they are very easy to keep alive. Bow Shopti are kind of the standard meta in this matchup, but they're kind of easier to shut down and swarm. Like this army from my opponent might be able to wrap around and kind of envelop them and shut them down. Looks like a Firebelly with Burning Head coming out from my opponent to roast these skeletons. Makes sense. I'm moving up onto Objective 1, taking that, my opponent taking Objective 2, and the armies approach each other. So it'll be interesting to see what my opponent calls out. They have a very wide army to start. One shaft going off into the Ogre units, taking out, looks like 2 models, 3 models right away. That's why I love the Bone Giant right there, doing immense damage right off the bat. It will miss some of its shots, but it's going to put nice pressure into my opponent. Another almost getting close to half health on that unit. Over here on Objective 3, I am going to take it. My opponent playing a little passive to start out, maybe building up, going in for a dive on the cash. What is it? The Paymaster, but looks like going to pull back. Don't want to get caught in units. Ogres are really good at using mass to quickly envelop your single entities, so you got to be really careful with how far you're moving forward. Calling in some chariots. Chariots, you wouldn't think they would be good against Ogres, but Ogres aren't really the army they used to be. With all their recent DLCs, they've been getting these Noblar units, which are infantry sized, and Ogre players usually bring a lot of them, so you need something anti-infantry, even though the majority of their army is fast, large units. So the Ogres are sounding the horn of war, moving forward, coming in to reclaim the swamp, as Shrek would say, taking some fire from these Noblar flingers. Looks like it's going to be a lot of light missile units coming in, and a sneaky flank in the woods here from my opponent. We can see some Ogres, some Iron Guts, the armor-piercing Ogre infantry unit, or ogre monstrous unit coming in. Chariot's doing a ton of damage into these Gnoblars initially, and then going to pull back and try and escape these ogre bowls following up. And so you can kind of like skim the edge of the ogre formation, hit some Gnoblars, pull back when the ogres come in to counter. Over here, my opponent's still standing back, holding off. Looks like a burning head I missed, went down on these skeleton archers. Nice burning head there. I move in my next archer unit to get some more pressure. Oh, and here comes the flank out of the woods. The ogre surprise has emerged, and they will be taking these skeleton archers to the club. And looks like I shot that straight down. I don't know if that was a misfire or what from the bone giant, but I think it did hit once. That's a nice shot. And he doesn't do much melee damage. He has very low melee attack, but he does cause terror, so he will be able to get some routes, hopefully. Over here, chariots are drifting around into enemy units. Need to get these skeleton spearmen active. Nekakar horsemen are a decent counter into ogres. They have really good damage versus unarmored units. Iron guts actually do have a lot of armor, so won't do the most. Looks like I'm going to move them to peel off some units over there. Settra and the boys over here are going to be rallying across the map, I believe. You can see them through there. Or it looks like they're going for the fire belly. Oh, a little lag there. Sorry about that. Over here, I do call in some Necropolis Knight halberds. These guys do solid damage. They do poison and really good anti-large attacks into armored units, so they'll do really well. You can see a lot of damage coming onto those iron guts right away. Might be able to get a terror route. My front line, however, is kind of getting eviscerated by all these little pebbles. I really like this play from my opponent, just showering me in light missiles to clear out my chaff units. Over here, Objective 3 looks to be falling to the ogre tide. There's just too many ogre units. My heroes are getting caught inside of pigback riders, not where they want to be. It looks like I popped the Blessed Blade of Petra, which applies a blinded effect, which is a really good for duelist situations, but looks like I kind of got wasted on those pigback riders. Not ideal for myself. I do clean up this flank from my opponent, get into the backfield. A nice shot. Oh, looks like the shot went over all the ogres, unfortunately, but did some nice damage to some Gnoblars. My Ushopti summon coming in to apply some pressure to my opponent from the rear. My opponent has scooted up their pebbles, but I have cleared up my back line, so I will be able to start progressing forward. The chariots here are going to be moving forward. That bone giant shot looked to do half health on that unit. We are going to start having an epic clash here on this home objective as I try to hold back the ogre tide. And I kind of like this approach from the ogres. A lot of times people go with bow shopties, like I mentioned, kind of a shooting line, whereas this would have been able to easily swarm into, I think, that type of position. Going to be routing this unit here. Now that Settra is in, he's going to be applying his buff to these surrounding units. You can see the Necropolis Knights now have the Crown of Nekakara and Unyielding Will, and I pop a physical resist on them, so their stats are going to be nicely buffed. My opponent does drop the cash cascade in response, throwing money at his soldiers, always very motivating, is going to give them a nice melee buff to counter my push, and this is really the epicenter of the battle. I'm probably going to decide the battle here, who wins this fight, as we kind of float over the intense action here in the front. Necropolis Knights really holding the line. Skeleton horsemen being chucked in as much as they can. Ninja darts and pebbles, though, are going to add up. Wherever Settra and his goon squad go, I am going to be winning the fight. My opponent doesn't really have any elite units to counter that, and it looks like the Ogre Paymaster might be overextending here. He does have Massacre to do a lot of damage, but this goon squad is really going to add up. I mean, that's a lot of anti-large, hard-hitting attacks. His health bar is going to be going down pretty quick once he gets the surround there. And the Blessed Blade is going to put a huge debuff once Settra lands a hit on this Paymaster. You can see his stats are really low now, and that is going to lead to him getting bullied very hard and probably going down. In the rest of the battlefield, ogres are going around the flanks. Here on this flank, I am able to isolate some units with the chariots and skeleton horsemen, which might be able to get me a chance to move back onto Objective 3, but I am starting to fall behind on objectives, and I really am very low on units. You can see I did goon their lord, but I really don't have anything else left. The bone giant and the heroes, but there is a lot of Gnoblars coming at me. I was able to keep my chariots active, which is It's a good sign. That will give me some hope at clearing out these Gnoblars, but there are Iron Guts and Ogre Bowls all around, so that is going to cause some problems. Bone Giant just headshotting some random Ogre Bowls over here on the flank. He is still active, chucking in nice shots back there. He's up to solid value, 1,000. So not quite paying for himself, but he will provide terror afterwards. Right now, these Iron Guts are getting bullied by Settra and the kids. Just going to be... There's nothing really my opponent can do to deal with those units. I mean, the Ogres could bring some duelist characters of themselves, or possibly the Sky Striders might be okay, but even then, I don't know. This is a pretty solid little group. And Settra's magic passive heals up the whole army whenever he casts, so that's really nice. Over here on the flank, though, I am starting to get bottled up. It looks like some Iron Guts are in here, multiple units of Iron Guts, and these guys are going to really be bullied. They have high armor, so my units with no armor-piercing damage are really going to get bullied over here, unless I can maybe get some routes on them, but we shall see. But over here on Objective 1, the lines are holding. We have a very solid value lead, which is a good sign, but often I'll find this happening during Ogres. I feel like I have a huge value lead, but then I just can't seem to get through the massive tide of units coming at me. Over here, just Nekakar Horsemen will do really nicely into these Gnoblar Flingers as I try to push through, especially with Settra nearby. They're going to have really sauced up stats there. You can see all the benefits. Fire Belly looking to dive in here and apply more pressure, but that might be a nice pick for me if Settra and the guys can get on top of that. The more Ogre units, and the Ogre Lord has returned. He is very cheap. So my opponent may be taking the what I would call the anticity approach to Lords. Is you can kind of just chuck them into whatever kind of fight you want, and if you just summon them back like any unit when they get defeated. Settra the Imperishable taking some damage here from the Fire Belly. He does have really good offensive stats, the Fire Belly, just maybe not the best defensive stats. So he will lose in the end to Settra, especially with the Tomb Prince coming in, and now the Blessed Blade is back, so that massive debuff is going to be going down. A nice burning head in the background there, going to cook some units of mine, and might even hit those horsemen on the run a little bit. Yep, does apply the debuff, and just chucking in Skeleton Horsemen and Nekakar Horsemen, they'll do well into the lightly armored Ogre Bulls with dual weapons. And that fire hero did go down, so that's another hero kill for the Goon Squad. You could see the value lead is getting crazy high at this point, but my flank has collapsed. These Iron Guts are now into my backfield, and I'm really not making progress through this giant horde of Ogre units. Another cascade going down, and with the Pigback Riders here, they will be able to clean up my Skeleton Spearmen. Bone Giant has one more shot left. I don't know where I'm sending him. He's just going for a walk, this big guy. Such a cool single entity, this thing. It's kind of like a giant, like gorilla type of face with a giant bow. Very fun. So the Ogres have rallied their center. I've tried to push over to the flank to try and get the objectives back. I am behind at this point on the objectives, so I need to start getting one back before things get out of hand. I don't want to get in a situation where I need to capture all 3 objectives in order to win. Looks like a little idle time from my opponent here. These units need to get busy and moving, and looks like an order has been given. They might go for my home objective. Looks like they're going to try and bounce over here to counter the hero Goon Squad, who have gotten on to those Iron Guts and are applying some pressure. Settra going to be pulling back, doesn't like the look of that large attack coming at him, and maybe he needs a little support. Over here, my opponent does rally some units. Some more Ogre Bulls are going to do pretty well into this one unit Nekakar Horseman, and that does keep the objective for my opponent. Skeleton Horse Archers are going to be nice into this situation. This is something I really like to do with Horse Cavalry, is you get them very close to a position like this so that their shots won't be able to miss, and then you just chuck in as many arrows as you can. Settra taking a lot of damage in here inside of the fight. The Paymaster, a nice duelist, is going to be doing a lot of damage, but I do have a physical resistance spell to pop to protect him, and spells will heal him up, and I am able to charge into this position. Terror Route's going to be coming in from the Bone Giant, and this might be be the second death for the Paymaster now, as he's running away, trying to escape, but he is running into my lines. More Ogre units now coming in as well, just trying to tie me up constantly, and it's starting to worry me here. Even as I'm constantly getting these kills on these heroes, I am not chewing through these units. The quality of Ogre Bolts is a lot higher than Skeleton Horsemen and Spearmen, so it's going to be difficult to make my way forward. I really need to get a big rout on this blob of units coming in, and then I might be able to make some progress. And here, Terror Rout's going down from the presence of the Bone Giant. Tomb Princes and Settra are going to be putting nice work into this Ogre Paymaster. And if he goes down again, that might give the Terror or the leadership lowering effect on my opponent's army, allowing me to maybe get the win. Over here, Ogre units protecting my opponent's flank, keeping me from making any progress. Looks like I've moved some Skeleton Horse Archers to apply pressure to Objective 2. This will make my opponent pull some units back, which might open up that large route that I was talking about. Back here, it looks like the Ogre Lord did go down for a second time. He may be back for a third time, you never know. It is approaching the point where I might need to get a triple cap, but as I say that, I am able to move my cavalry onto these objectives, which is kind of pulling my opponent's remaining army apart, which is allowing me to isolate units, and that looks like it might be the end for the Ogres. This is a tough matchup for the Ogres. I think it might be, in fact, their worst matchup, so there's a lot of ways the Tomb Kings can play this, but I find this off-meta approach pretty fun. It works really well as well if your opponent, the Ogre player, brings some large single entities like Stonehorns or Thunder Tusks. Settra can run around with that Blessed Blade of Petra and kind of isolate those big monsters and take them out. They can't really defeat them. I don't know if the Ogres really have anything to counter this Settra Goon squad, so I think it's really effective. And this build kind of allows you to deal with any Ogre builds that come at you. I think this would be the most challenging build for this kind of Goon squad, is a very wide Ogre army just seeking to beat you on objectives, which my opponent very closely almost did. So that's going to be it. If anyone watching has any ideas on how Ogres might be able to counter this matchup or what they could do, send me a message on Discord or drop a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.